Maynard, welcome.
Hey.
Last time that we spoke was in Jerome. Two years ago, I think.
22?
Yeah, 2022. One of the things that I cracked up about, actually, after is that you have a really quiet speaking voice.
Uh-oh.
No, you
couldn't hear me?
No, I could hear you, but
Can you hear me now?
But the people that were standing about 5 feet away said, I couldn't hear anything he said. Yet you have such a powerful voice, but your speaking voice is actually very subdued.
Yeah, let the mic do the work.
Let the mic do the work.
When you hear like Matt Chamberlain,
yeah,
when people go, they hear the recordings like, oh my God, the guy must have like arms the size of a truck. But you're like, no, if you ever see him recording, he's literally tapping. In fact, one of the songs he did with us with Perfect Circle, he used chopsticks.
Okay.
To play the parts, but it sounds like he's kicking a wall over.
We were just talking about the Tool rehearsal space with Danny, and he has all his drums set up there, which takes up about 3/4 of the room. And then there's the guitar and bass set up, and you were saying that you don't really go there ever anymore to do anything because it's too loud.
Well, it used to be that I had like, maybe a 3x3 spot to stand in.
Yeah.
And that's reduced down to like you're standing on your other foot.
Well, it's like
all
their pedal boards are they're touching each other, and then his drum set takes up so much of the room.
As soon as they go, hey, let's go, and they turns on the PA, it's like, it's just the PA is going to feed back. So I'd have to be in the other room, literally peering through like a little portal through the wall, like, hey, what's going on over here?
Okay, so now when you're working on ideas, you played me some ideas before we started, and do you want to talk about what you're working on now?
Yeah, we don't really like to talk about anything until we feel like we're 90% there. So I can now say out loud, there's a Puscifer record coming in 2025. We're 90% written. Now we have to go back and start tracking stuff. We got to track down Gunnar Olsen and Sarah Jones and get some drums down, and Matt's going to get in there and play, I believe. Karina, you didn't even hear any of Karina's parts yet. She's working on stuff. Greg Edwards, of course, again, we talked about individual pieces that kind of stand alone as a part and a thing rather than just a support piece. Greg Edwards doesn't play support pieces. He plays interesting parts that stand alone. So same with Sarah, same with Matt, same with Karina. You
have some pretty developed ideas. You played for me things that you had done on your own. We'll talk about your process for doing this.
Yeah, so the process has been usually Matt will kind of hand me I think we talked about it last time. Matt will box himself in with a Fairlight or a synclavi, or he'll take a synth and just kind of write some parts that are kind of they can be infinite possibilities, but there's definitely a sound attached to that, so it ends up being kind of a box. And then we're kind of working with what you got in the box. For this time, I'm going, hey, let me be the box. So I would come up with, they're more developed. They're not just napkin sketches. I think they're more like, a one-eyed architect drawings development, and then hand them to him to see where he's going to go. And I feel like that's kind of helped him bounce off of somebody else's idea and taking it, and he has free reign. He can tear it up. There's only a couple little parts that I'm precious about, but he can break it and redo it. In fact, I think Karina's on one of the songs. She's completely destroying what we did to come up with something way better. I'm confident. So napkin sketch and Logic, get a session, and then bounce out an MP3 and just send that to Karina and Matt. Upload the sessions so Matt can download them, and then just be patient for see what he's going to come up with. And it's worked out pretty well. And of course, then he sent me stuff. He has a folder of stuff he sent me, and now that I can wrap my head around Logic, I can send him back vocal ideas for what he sent me, rather than waiting to get together, hook up the blue bottle, and go from there. I can literally get my little blue mic out and send him back scratch ideas.
When do you typically work on these things? You do it early in the day?
Writing, Logic, early morning. I do the whole carrot thing. Like, here's my coffee. I'll put it just out of reach. Come up with a tempo. Come up with a time signature. Pick a drum set. Mess around with it. Try to just kind of find the vibe. In a way, similar to like Joni Mitchell would wake up, she'd tune her open tuning to a particular chord, and then she would write around the chord. So that's kind of what I'm doing with that. I'm just taking these sounds, and you know, you can say it's in the computer, but like as soon as a human interaction comes in, it's no longer what it was in the computer. So I don't let my, I want the coffee. Don't let yourself have the coffee until you have like something, some foundational file ready to go, and then I'll develop that and give it about a day or two, just see where it's gonna go. Kind of keep the magic, keep it, don't overwork it. Because if I overwork it, then Matt's like, that's pretty much almost a finished song. So
yeah.
He just goes, what do you want me to do? Rather than doing that, like, show some restraint, send him the session without it going too far.
And then will you do a completely finished demo version then once the song is put together before
Kind
you
of
even
like
record it?
right now we're in that full demo mode of like written lyrics, harmonies. Karina's writing parts. He's got guitar parts that he's writing, and then now we got to go back. We got to get sessions together to get the drummers on there. And I mentioned, you know, in the past we've worked with a lot of different people, and the people that I kind of gravitate to are, you know, there's technical drummers who can just nail it, and they're a support instrument in there. But I like the drummers that actually are writing. They're literally like, they're writing their own piece that kind of goes with it. Danny Carey, you can't argue. Like he writes a piece that sounds like a thing on its own. It's not just a metronome under everything. And Sarah Jones does the same thing. Gunnar Olsen does the same thing. It's like they're writing parts.
Yeah.
That on their own, you can mute it and just let that go, and just it sounds incredible. So that's the next step for Matt. I think he's getting all these things together. We're gonna get together soon. Do semi-finished vocals, because you know, once the drums go on and once he starts tracking, I have to go back and massage little timing nuances to accommodate the new bed.
What about lyrics, finishing lyrics? How often do you have unfinished sections? Will you have something like, oh, I have a placeholder here and I don't know what that line is, but I have the rest of it done? Or do you have the lyrics done way ahead of time?
Oh, no, that ends up, a lot of it ends up being scat for a while, and I try to make sure I'm not rushing it to come up with the story. There's a lot of bands that I love that I don't even know what the fuck they're singing about. It just sounds great. You know, the timing and everything sounds great, and the melodies, the way they're going with the rhythms and the guitars and whatnot. I know that there are people who like, what's the story, and make sure that the story makes sense, even if it's a joke or if it's, you know, a serious subject. Just take your time on it. There's no hurry on it. Unless you have a deadline to release a record, then you got to get working.
Can a song be good if it's got a great melody and terrible lyrics? Do the lyrics matter if you have a great melody, or if you can't even understand them?
There's songs that I thought, I love that song, and then they'll put it in a TV show or a movie, and then it shows you what they're saying.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about, man? Like, it's just kind of kills it for you when you realize that they're not saying much of anything.
Right.
They're just like stringing some lines together. Doesn't make any sense. You know, a lot of that's happened a lot. Like around the house, I go like, Jen, read this shit. That's what they're saying? Huh. I think it's important. I think it's,
if you can marry the two, right?
If you can marry the two, that's great.
Yeah.
But I think there's songs that we still listen to that are like, I'll just pretend that's not as dumb as it is. You just love it.
Yeah.
The groove, it's somehow hitting right in your soul pocket, you know? Just the sounds themselves are speaking to you in a much deeper, bigger way than maybe the words ever could anyway.
Do you like to have some type of atmospheric sound in an instrumental track that you're writing to? And I ask you this because the song Green Valley, the Puscifer song, just starts out with basic chords, right?
Yeah.
So I'll play the beginning of it.
Oh yeah, this is hard.
Hello stranger, can you tell us where you've been? More importantly, however did you come to be here? Though a stranger, you can rest here for a while. But save your energy, your journey here is far from over. Come the sunrise, we'll descend through Judgment Valley and weigh your worth before Her Majesty, the Verde River.
That was a very difficult song to track and get right pitch-wise, because if your balance is off on what the guitar level is, you're sharp or flat depending on what you're hearing. You want to nail it, so it really is a couple passes of he'll put the guitar in and I'll sing it, and we'll listen back to go, okay, you got to turn the guitars up, or you got to turn the guitars down depending on if I'm sharp or flat, because it is in there, but like what you're hearing in the headphones, it might be the way it's compressed in your head, you might be hearing a different tone or undertone or overtone.
The melody is very intricate, and that's the thing about your melodies. You write these things that move up and down with all the jumps. The first part, it's in E flat minor. It starts out, or D sharp minor, whatever.
Is it now?
And it's D sharp, then it's C sharp major and B major.
You have a lot of time on your hands, sir.
But but all you have is just the stated chord there, and yet you have this melody around there, and the melody is kind of like an A B on the first chord, right? And then you develop it on the second chord, and then the third chord. I mean, it's such a natural melody, but it's a very complex melody. But you just have those static chords that you're writing over. My question is, how do you come up with such an intricate melody over such these basic chords?
I think we talked about it before. It's just that exposure to those musicians who draw outside the box. Like some of that early Fiona Apple, just the music itself is like, how did you get there?
Right.
Right. And Joni Mitchell we've mentioned. My dad turned me on to Ahmad Jamal at an early age, and he has that core groove he comes back to, and he kind of anchors himself in, but he's like way over here and swings back around and comes back in with the piano where he's playing outside those tones and coming back to that, landing on one basically. I think it's just exposure and not wanting to just sing the part. We talked about like those classics, right? Some of the Ozzy Osbourne singing, he's just singing the guitar part. That's a cool song.
Yeah.
But when he starts singing counter to the guitar part, that's more interesting to me. I still like those other songs where he's just like following, but I don't really I'm not much of a follower.
Does a song like that, when you're starting with a melody, do you just have a wordless vocal and then you start putting the words in?
Yeah, you just free ball it. Jump off the cliff and hope you land on one, and to find that, in that moment, that melody. And it might not work. And a lot of times it doesn't work at all. It's a fucking disaster. I'm not going to play you any of that stuff. Because you'll go, that was awful. But you gotta try it. You gotta jump off the deep end and just shoot for a note that doesn't seem like it fits the thing, and then figure out how to get there and get back.
I'd like to take a second to talk to you about this channel. Of the people that regularly watch my channel, 58% are actually not subscribed. So I encourage you to hit the subscribe button now. This will help me to get even more of my dream guests and continue to grow my channel. Thank you. Are there any songs that are difficult for you to count? You've done so many different, so many of your bands have so many different odd time signatures.
Yeah.
Are there times when you're like, I don't even know where to come in with this?
Yeah. With Tool, I'll go, Danny, just like as we're getting there, just go, tink, just give me a tink. Tink and go. It's not easy. With Puscifer, I'll rehearse things without hearing the click, but something we found that helps us, here's a trick for people who are on the grid. The grid can be really stiff and boring unless you're able to kind of flow outside the grid a little bit and just kind of make it, give it, yes, there's a clock there, but you can draw outside the lines on that clock. Something we found for performing with Puscifer is that since we're on the grid, we have an opportunity here, rather than putting effects in the hands of the sound man. And now you have this room and those effects are coming back through the mic, and you're driving all the stuff, and you're hearing the effect is now being applied to the snare drum,
Right.
or or the bass next to you, or the cymbals, nemesis cymbals. As a singer, you hate the cymbals.
Of course.
But what we've done is, because we're on the grid, we can then take effects that would be on the vocal, open mic effects, and that's actually on the tracks. So we don't put the effect live.
Interesting.
But it really makes it so that you have to pay attention to your vocal landing where it's supposed to land so that the effect makes sense.
Interesting.
So now when you're out front, it sounds amazing because, you're singing live, but the little sauce that's on there is not getting lost with
Right, that's not
cymbals and kick drum and
cymbals.
snare.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of liberating in that way. I'm not having to drive an effect now. If it's a lingering delay, I can end where I'm supposed to end, and then we can get back to performing, because you are there to see a show. You're there to hear a show, but you're also there to see a show. So Karina and I can run our asses off across stage and not have to worry about, wait a minute, this thing's an 11, where's the 1? You get lost in the, in the madness.
When you were on tour with your 3 different groups, I know you've done this in the past, I guess, for your 50th birthday.
Yeah.
I mean, you're 60 now, Maynard. We can say that,
Pushing
right?
61, buddy.
So tell me about how you divide up between the 3 different groups.
Well, first and foremost, to pull off a show like this, it takes artists that have flexibility and are just good human beings to begin with. The guys in Primus from forever have been those guys. People we have playing along with Billy and I, and Perfect Circle, same thing. They're open to cool ideas. And of course, Puscifer is exactly that. It's that crazy project. So if for those of you who have not seen Se Santa, we're going out again, feel free to come on down. One of the bands starts with 3 songs. And we have kind of hangout areas for the other bands to kind of hang out in on stage while that band does its 3 songs. And
But
somewhere in the middle of that, then...
The setup, I didn't mean to interrupt, but the setup is that all 3 bands are set up together.
Oh yeah, we have 3 drum sets set up. All the back line is under the drum risers. There's like stairs up to actually have a little hangout area while you're not performing. And then all the mics and pedal boards and stuff are down in front. So while this band is finishing up its 3rd song, this band's coming down and getting ready to go. And you're crossing over and you're sharing time with each other and each other's songs. It's fun. It's super fun. The songs are serious. You're in it. You're in it. Southbound Pachyderm, when that comes on with Primus, I'm just in it. You're in the zone, and you're actually you're listening to one of your favorite bands perform it right there next to them.
Is it something that you thought, I want to celebrate this 60th birthday, embrace it? It's a big thing.
Yeah. Mick Jagger is still touring.
Yeah.
So, no excuses. The idea of retiring at 65, I feel like I don't even know what the fuck I would do. Probably more things. But, I think, there was kind of that idea of celebrating those milestones, not just by yourself, but with your friends, and having a big party that somebody else has to clean up after.
Is this a more difficult setup when you have a 3-band setup like this? It's pretty complicated.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So everything about it, like the tour manager having to navigate the 3 bands and the production manager and front of house, monitors are having to agree that this guy might be the guy. And now you've got, when you have a band that has, between 3 and 5 people in the band, there's always one guy that's the most difficult monitor guy. He's just torturing the fuck out of the monitor guy. Now triple that.
Yeah, times 3. Yeah.
Yeah, now times 3. So the backline guys go through hell. But that's why you have to have good people.
Yeah.
You can't be bringing, these guys are popular, let's bring them. And then they end up being assholes, and it's just a nightmare, and it sucks.
But the show is that you're alternating between the 3 different.
Yep. So these guys come down and do 3 songs. Next band comes up and does 3. Next band comes up and does 3. We just rotate around like that. And there's little intermission breaks too to kind of reset some things up. Little video breaks as well. This is basically Puscifer with a budget. you know, because Puscifer's pretty tiny band. So this thing gives us an opportunity to showcase what Puscifer Entertainment is capable of when you give us a budget with a nice lighting rig, and it's cool. It's fun.
When you've been working on this new record, do you have maybe 4 extra songs, something like that? Or do you just have the songs that you know you're going to do, where it's like, okay.
Usually we would try to find a couple extra songs. But as it turns out, we put out an EP for Sesanta that was a Primus, Perfect Circle, and Puscifer song. Again, stuff that I started in Logic and handed to them to see what Les would come up with, you know, beyond that. So because we have that song, and we did one for American Psycho, we did a song called The Algorithm.
Yeah.
So we kind of have 2 extra songs. So when we go to do the rework album, we always do a remix album or a rework album attached to that one. We already have 2 that we can rework to give you an extra 2 for that album. So because of timing, because of everything, we'll try to get to the 10 songs that we know we're solid with. If in the next month or 2, another 1 or 2 surfaces that kicks one of the other ones out of the party, and so we have extras, that's fine, but it would have to be impressive, and we all agree, like, oh shit, that one's got to go on.
I think about this term that we're living in the algorithm age right now, where most things that people hear, just talking about music, it's this with everything, are suggested via algorithms through the listening platforms, whether it's Spotify or Apple Music or Tidal or whatever people are listening through now. And I was reading an article recently that said the only alternative to Spotify is silence. Now that's not true, of course, right?
Right.
But what is your feelings about people being siloed, right? Their listening experience is kind of tailored to their own person, and what are the drawbacks of
but
that?
I feel like the physical version of that before was, well, this album's amazing because like it's the #1 on the chart. Yeah, but Walmart only sells 4 albums. Right. They don't sell all of the albums. They sell these 4.
Yeah.
So does, you know, this place and Target, and you know, and the radio stations only play the 20. So yeah, of course it's #1 because it's not being sold.
Right.
These other ones aren't being sold. Those are the ones being sold. And I've kind of used this analogy with food, right? So if in your mind you're thinking of your favorite restaurant, somewhere like the food's always great and it's consistent and just above average, right? I'm not talking about McDonald's. I'm talking about like when you go to a sit-down restaurant, you have a great food or like a great burger place that you just go to. Whatever that place is that you're thinking of right now, on any given day of the week, a Walmart superstore sells more hot food than your favorite restaurant does in a week or a month.
Right.
You have to remember that the volume isn't necessarily a measure of quality. Sometimes it's unanimous, like this movie is great and everybody lines up because this film's great. But a lot of times it's that natural laziness algorithm that they're only going to put these up or they're only going to serve this because you know, they only want chicken tenders and fries anyway, so why have anything else? Why sell anything else?
I find that there's very little shared experience nowadays. Taylor Swift, I'll say to people, I've never heard any of her songs.
I haven't heard any of them.
Okay, see?
I don't think. Maybe I have when I was shopping for underwear at Kmart.
25 years ago, because of MTV, because of radio, songs were being played everywhere. But because of these algorithms, it locks people in and they only hear things that are pushed their way. It's hard to discover new music. It's almost like there's an
absolute mechanism in place to amplify and loop narcissism in all ways. Like I mentioned this before, like, you know, when I'm going to do a video of something, I pull out my phone and I do a video because this is how I watch movies and this is how life works. But if you do a video like this of somebody, there's not enough of them in the screen. If you turn it this way, I can get more of my ego in the screen, right? So TikTok is huge because it's just narcissism on steroids because you're in the screen. And I feel like that's that loop. And now you're only going to be fed that one thing that got traction So just like the 4 albums at Walmart, that's all you're going to see now. You're not going to hear, you know, a great new band that has a song out unless somebody literally grabs you and puts it in your ear.
The discovery mechanism is the thing that's is broken by these algorithms.
Yeah, I think so. People start kind of just becoming tribal. They end up kind of having their own little circle of people that they discover music amongst themselves, and they share it and they get into it, that nobody's ever heard of it. Then there's the ones like you that are like billions of listens, but if I don't turn on Spotify or Pandora, I'm not going to hear that.
What do you use to listen? Do you have a streaming platform that you use?
There's just I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's called compact discs. It's a disc.
I've heard about it.
You've heard about these?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's these discs. Have you heard of compact discs? You can CDs for short. CD. That's still my medium. I got my new car and like, where do you put the? Come over, Grandpa. Let's get you to bed. Yeah, I'm still listening to CDs. I have my phone and I have iPads that have downloaded music on it, but I'm literally going online and finding my playlists, because I won't use the Spotify or the Pandora because it's going to shove. I don't want to hear the new U2 album. I just don't. Remember that? Back when you get your iPhone, I was like, why is U2 on my phone?
Yeah.
Get it out. So, I do go through and do a lot of research because I have multiple public places, restaurants, and my academy. So I'll go through and I'll kind of curate playlists for those places. Very specifically, I'll go through and pick a bunch of songs for it and remove things that don't fit. But that way it's a set playlist that you're not going to all of a sudden hear some garbage come through because of the algorithm suggesting something you didn't want to have in there.
So between your 3 bands, are there ideas that you say, oh, this is a Puscifer idea?
Well, now that I'm working in Logic,
yeah,
I can hear the thing unraveling and go, I think that Billy would appreciate this more than, say, Matt or Karina. I can kind of do that. And with Tool, if I try to come in with music, they go, that's cute. Get back in your corner.
Okay, what are the things that would be different between a Puscifer idea that you come up with and a Perfect Circle idea?
It's just feel, it's just vibe. That's all it really comes down to. How I think that person is going to react to the Napkin sketch. And that's what's evident on the Sesanta EP.
Yeah.
With Billy's reaction to that song and Matt's reaction to No Angel. It's apparent, like, oh yeah, that was meant for even the Primus one, when I heard it, I was like, this just sounds like Les playing guitar and Larry, playing guitar. Or Les playing bass and Larry playing guitar. And they took it, whatever I could probably I'll play you that sketch later to go, here's where it started, and this is where it ended. And it became even more of a Primus song when they actually put their sound on it.
When you have your sketches, like the ones you played from your earlier, I know how you have some drums programs that you've done and everything, but sometimes the groove will change completely on it. Mm-hmm. Even where one is, can be interpreted differently. Mm-hmm. Are you ever surprised when you get something back?
Oh, yeah.
Like, whoa. It's
great because it takes it to that next level. That is definitely a Tool thing. Adam comes in with a riff, or Justin comes in with a riff, and like, oh, cool. Danny starts playing, and Justin's like, that's not one. Yes, it is. And Adam's like, you both are wrong. The one's over here. And I'm I'm listening to the demo going, you guys are on drugs.
Is there ever a time where you're like, I don't know where one, even in songs that you've done many times, where you kind of can get lost in it a little bit?
Oh yeah, there's a couple of Puscifer songs that just seem like, oh, these are easy to play. And you go, wait a minute. Danny came down to play Humbling River for Cinquanta, my 50th. He came down to play Humbling River, and like, you want to play? And it's like, yeah. He just rolls in, he goes to play, he's like, wait a minute. What's the time signature? Yeah, fucker. So he had to notate it out to find where the transitions were. Adam always says, for me, like they'll do some stuff that seems impossible to find, and he calls it, taming the beast. You basically tamed that that weird time signature. So when you hear it as a song, you feel like it's that's an easy staircase to walk up.
When you guys are
That's my job, is to tame the weird time signature.
when you go into track drums for the new Puscifer record, do you have a sound in mind for each song about?
Leave that to Matt.
Okay.
Yeah, I just let him run with it, because by the time we've got it to this far, and I'm responding to whatever he's been doing in response to me, we've kind of got it in a 90% direction. And then it's about him producing now. You know, if Sarah Jones comes in and starts playing on something, he'll literally say, get through a take and go, that is not the vibe.
Yeah.
But you're capable of the vibe. Are we going for? He'll give a direction and she'll go, oh yeah, right. And then it's just amazing. So that's, you know, we work with really open-minded people that have a creative responses to the stimulus or the direction. And then if I have to adjust things after that vibe has been massaged or changed.
Adjust your vocals.
Absolutely, yeah. And it might even change the words. It might change the story because the vibe is different now. I might have to rewrite some lyrics, but that doesn't usually happen. Usually by the time we get that far down to words, the vibe is kind of set. Now it's just more of an energy level and dynamics issue.
How often now are you using vocals that you cut on your own as a finished vocal?
That's funny you say that, because sometimes that magic, I think Matt was telling a story about, Angel M tracking some vocals at some point where she kind of did it on her shitty little home mic, and she kept trying to do it in the studio to match the vibe. It just wasn't matching the vibe. Brought out the shitty mic and, you know, got her in the closet, and and I'm making this up, I wasn't there. But that was it. Like the vibe that you had in that small analog, like a beautiful studio like this, like you would probably get lost in the fact that you're in a beautiful studio and forget what it was like to record in the bathroom with some blankets on the wall, sitting on the toilet.
Right.
Not on the toilet,
Right.
just, you know, sitting by
With the lid
toilet.
closed.
Yeah, lid closed. Yeah, so, you know, I think that's some of those tracks that I tracked on the Blue in a hotel room, the ones that Matt went, I'm actually gonna keep that.
Because a lot of times it's difficult to just get in that same headspace and get the same sound.
Yeah.
Or if you've listened to it a million times.
Get demo ears.
Yeah.
You know, you can get demo ears on that. But like, a lot of it ends up coming down to like something happened in that room with that mic on that day with whatever was happening with my throat. That was the captured sound, and you just keep it.
Historically, we didn't have things like this to record on. You know, where you had 4 tracks and things like that. But the things that you didn't necessarily weren't able to have the quality to keep to use when you go into a studio and you're recording. Mm-hmm. But nowadays, when you're capturing things digitally,
Yeah, the bit rate is way
and
better.
And
than
you
it used
keep
to
in
be.
mind that, well, this could actually be your demo vocal could actually be the vocal on there, and you
Right.
treat it that way, don't you?
Right. Yeah, there might be I can't hear the mics. You know, you're in a room, there's a housekeeping's in the hallway making noise, and you're trying to get the thing. You know, so 90% of it is like, that's great, but like there might be like, the pitch is out on that because, you know, it was of the setting that I was in. Well, then go ahead and use the pitch, you know, the auto-tune to fix that thing, because the performance, the grit, the dust on that thing ended up being worth keeping and fixing.
Do you sing with speakers on, or do you sing with one ear off? Do you use headphones when you
Headphones.
do it?
I have those blue headphones. They discontinued making them because they had so much success with the little podcast
USB mic.
mic.
Yeah.
They stopped making the blue bottle, and they stopped making the powered headphones. I had 4 from before, and I'm hanging on to them for dear life because they are the headphone.
How long have you been using that blue bottle? Is that just a mic that you like to use at home? Or
I
is that
can't
something
remember who first introduced it. I don't know if it was Matt or Joe Barisi, but we were using the old Neumanns. And that's kind of like a reconstruction of that technology. I have to maybe let Joe and Matt fight to the death to see who introduced that to me first. But it was because of the Neumann that we kind of went that way, because I used Neumann on all the early Tool stuff.
When you're finishing a record up, and you're going through your mix thing, I asked you this before, but how many different versions do you guys go through with Puscifer compared to Tool, for example?
You mean as far as like listening to
Yeah,
to
like
the
okay,
massages?
I'm this mix is good. I'm on version 8 with Tool, where it's like 4 versions with Puscifer. Is it easier to get consensus?
Yeah, it's a little easier with Puscifer. You know, we definitely, you know, Matt and I don't argue, fight, but like we'll disagree and we'll find a happy medium. With Tool, it's like, hey, we're sending you, you know, a CD, and I go, turn the vocal up. No, you haven't even listened to it yet. I know, just turn it up. Because I already know it's going to get drowned out by everything. Everybody's fighting for space, and I'll just go, just turn it up. And then there's like 16 versions, and you know, of as far as like, you know, quarter dB,
Okay, so
half dB.
so
dB.
somebody like Joe Beezley.
Yeah. Pulling all of his hair out.
Yeah, okay. Does he ever come in and say, listen, I think this version is way better and you guys are crazy. The drums are fine.
sure
the snare
he-
level is fine.
Yeah, he has to walk that fine line because he's the hired guy.
Yeah.
He can't be just screaming from the mountaintops what he really thinks, but he has a solid backbone. He'll tell you what he thinks.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's not totally up to him. So
Right.
what you hear is what you hear.
I came out for sound check for the
Say something?
for Se Santa, and then I walked around the whole perimeter of the stage, and there were so many different setups with all the techs, with the monitor. I mean, it was so complicated to look at. And how do you guys set up and get ready for a show? Are they arriving a day before, or can you guys set up everything in one
out.
day?
Those guys work 5 times harder than we do. They're out there like early.
3
getting that
separate
thing.
drum sets, mics on all of them.
Yep.
This was one of the most complicated stage setups I'd seen.
We have an amazing crew. We could not do it without, you know, without our crew. You know, I learned early on. You know, hats off to credit to Henry Rollins, in the early days, saying, treat them well. They work harder than you do, and I took that to heart. And I try it. Like if you're in a band and you're touring, and you're getting up at your cozy 11 a.m. or 1 p.m. time, try setting your alarm for 8:30 in the morning, grab a coffee, and go watch what they go through. And they literally just went to bed 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
So don't be a dick to your crew.
When you're out on tour, what do you do as soon as the show's over? Do you have to, I mean, obviously being a singer, you got to really take care of your voice.
I got to shut up right away.
Okay.
Yeah. You have friends there, and if you know you have a day off tomorrow, and I can probably see friends, but generally speaking, if it's a show the next night, it's literally a fist bump, and I got to shut up and go to bed.
Do you have certain cities that you go and do your jiu-jitsu in?
Well, I mean, on the road, we try to. We have a lot of extended family all over the world to come down and do training, either jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai, before the show if I can. Not always on a day off. Usually day off, it's maintain, be mellow, and maybe hit the gym. And it's not like I'm workout dude. I just understand. I've connected the benefit of oxygen in and breathing and circulation with health and ability to sing. So it's not like I'm, Lou Ferrigno out there trying to be, Mr. Universe or anything. It's more about the body health and the heart health and the blood circulation of healing. So you have to be active in some way. If you're just a loaf on the couch, you're going to be the guy that's always getting sick.
And how often do you go to your dojo, or what do you call it for jiu-jitsu or Muay
Academy,
Thai?
Jiu-Jitsu Academy.
Yeah.
Yeah, or school.
Yeah.
Quite often. I've actually been instructing lately. We're thinking about doing private lessons.
I see that you post,
building, yeah.
you'll post of, you at your academy.
Yeah, we just did a documentary called The Great In Between. It's on Puscifer TV. I think you can buy it now. We were doing it like a rental initially, but now you can buy it. And it really does kind of take you through some testimonials about why jiu-jitsu. And a lot of what we do at the academy is just kind of foundational stuff. I think there's something to be said for spontaneity and having that, that natural talent for a thing, but blending that with discipline, it gives you the ability to repeat the successes. So drilling and really kind of putting the time in helps you repeat those successes, and I think that applies to young bands coming up who they hit it with a big record and then you never hear from them again because they didn't really have the foundation or the backup. It's whatever they'd heard over their whole life kind of culminated in this one album, and then they just kind of went away. In terms of really repeating those successes, you have to have a combination of that spontaneity and some kind of foundation of how to retrace your steps back to it. And, trust your intuition, but also put some work in.
So how do you come up with new ideas all the time? How do you get inspired to do that? Do you do it through listening to music, or what do you do?
Well, just life in general. Every single day is a different day. When you're working as a farmer, I can't point to the beginning of the year and go, this map means that the grapes are going to be exactly like this year. It's absolutely going to be different every year in some subtle way. So in terms of writing, that's infinite as well. You just have to be open to not repeating yourself.
That's way more difficult than just saying that. It's more difficult doing it.
Yeah, because there's a lot of fear involved. You want to repeat your successes, so you almost in some ways you repeat the exact thing you did, thinking that's going to be as successful. Or you go way outside the box and try to do something that's out of character that doesn't resonate with the people that showed up for the first idea. It's scary. There's a lot of fear involved, but you just kind of have to trust your process and I don't know. What do you want? Do you want to be rich and famous, or do you want to make really great songs? Because they don't necessarily go hand in hand.
Okay, so when you're writing a melody with the song we just listened to, do you think about, or do you naturally hear a structure like an A-B melody structure like that? There's a balance to that. Or is that something that you say, okay, here's the first kind of your exposition or your antecedent or whatever, and then you have an answer line, and then you repeat it again?
I think generally speaking, there's a structure where you're going, okay, I'm going to have a statement. There's going to be some kind of call-response version. You could call that the verse. You could call this the chorus. And maybe there's a bridge in there somewhere, or the bridge is just a weird version of the chorus. So you can think structure like that, but it is conversations with yourself, right? You're just trying to have a complete thought conversation. I'm telling a story, so there has to be a story arc in this.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, listening to the rhythms and listening to what melody might come out of that rhythm. And then it's that spiral graph. Remember, you put the thing here, and if you move your pen out, it becomes this whole different pattern.
Oh yeah.
Trying to find your way back to the center. That's kind of how I write lyrics. Oh shit, but how do I get back to the core? So the rhythm section is there, and it might just be a single note, and then you add another note later to just kind of get, that massive attack. Just ride that note, man. Don't get off it. Stay right there, and you can bounce off that note all day.
Do you always just sing to whatever the music is? Do you ever use a piano or anything? And
I use a piano to try to find the right chord.
Yeah.
A lot of times I'm okay at that.
Yeah.
But really I'll lean into Karina on that, because she'll find that crazy chord that ends up being an interesting vocal for a note that I didn't think to go to. But to answer your question, the piano is I definitely go to a keyboard to just kind of help with those notes, and especially in Logic, if you had a couple chords, MIDI, you have a chord on there, then in Logic, like literally, like an idiot trying to type with one finger, I'm like moving the note around to see in a loop what that sounds like, and then moving them around to see where you're going to come up with.
Will you pull up an instrument and then just say, "Oh, what is this? I've never tried this before."
Oh yeah.
And then you'll just
all those things I played for you were like just me going, what the fuck's a flugelhorn or whatever? Like, okay, let's try that. Oboe, hey?
You could pretty much take any sound, Maynard, right, and come up with something that would become a song.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's just conversations with the sonics, right? If there's a rhythm, Yeah, give me a note or give me a sound. We'll find a sound out of it. We'll find a song out of it.
Do you like to work with a rhythm first? Or
Yeah.
do you like to come up with some type of sonic?
I like the rhythm to figure out what the tempo is, what's the beat, what's our how are we breathing today? Because that's, rhythm is breathing. So we'll start with the breathing to see what workout we're going to dive into here, and then we'll start to figure out: is it manic? Is it something is it a puzzle that's stressful? I'm having to trip over it to try to find my footing. Then you write that way. If it's 4 on the floor, that's easy. We're gonna write an Irish folk song.
These sketches that you played me, how many other ones did you start and abandon before you kind of hit those? Or these, as soon as you hit these, are you like, oh, this is good, I know.
Yeah,
this.
Matt and I have a folder that I won't tell you what we call it, but it's definitely like where the stupid ideas go to die. Yeah, it just didn't quite take shape. It's not a big folder because these are they're just conversations. So, but if you really try to take a thing too far before you really developed the core, in jiu-jitsu we call it don't fix it later.
What does that mean?
If you're in a position where you're trying to make progress, but you didn't fix this thing structurally, that you're going to basically compromise your base or your position. You're going to end up disconnecting from what you're trying to accomplish by moving forward without fixing it first. Fix it first, then move forward. If you're hearing a rhythm that's not quite working, don't go forward. Just retreat a little bit, find the rhythm that works first, and then go forward. If the melody is not quite making any sense, you can't find a harmony in it to kind of latch onto it, just start over. Retreat, fix it.
So my 11-year-old daughter, she takes Taekwondo. She's been doing it for 2-3 years now, and she's like, after I get to my black belt, I want to do jiu-jitsu.
I would recommend she go to Muay Thai first.
Okay.
Muay Thai is a little more violent than the Taekwondo.
Okay.
But it's
why though? Why?
Well, I mean, from a self-defense point of view, now we're going off on a tangent here.
Yeah, this is good. I like this.
You have the 8 points, right? So with Muay Thai, you're not just striking and kicking, you're using knees too, and you're using elbows. So close proximity, elbows far out, managing distance. And then with jiu-jitsu, all that is, now it's here. So with jiu-jitsu, I like to use these metaphors because they actually do apply to writing songs as well. But when you're first starting that band, it's also the same thing as kind of a self-defense mindset for jiu-jitsu, where you're just trying to survive.
Yeah.
There's all this shit happening. You got to survive it. Then you got to escape it. Whatever this feeling you're having, escape the chaos. Then you're gonna control, and then you're gonna submit, right? So first survive it. Eventually you're gonna submit. So that's kind of the in a self-defense mindset. With our new approach of jiu-jitsu, we're talking about like take it from general. So we're going to find the end of the lever. We're going to work our way up to the base joints. We're going to find the torso. We're going to pin you. Then we're going to start isolating things, and then we're going to submit you. That's the same way I approach writing. Let's just start with the very edges here and work our way till we have control of the torso. And then we're going to start isolating these things and then submit that song. Hi.
But you're a believer in this, in learning multiple martial arts.
Yeah, and I think she'll find if she goes from the Taekwondo, now they're going to add pieces. They're going to be adding elbows and knees to the Muay Thai. And then when she's actually now in close proximity, because the thing she's trying to do as a Taekwondo fighter or a Muay Thai fighter, she's finding her base and she's managing distance in a way. Now you don't really have the expanded distance. Now you're tight in with the jiu-jitsu. Now it's about making meaningful connections, cutting angles, and distributing your weight. Or if you're defending yourself, you're trying to disrupt the connection. You're trying to disrupt their weight distribution and cut an angle to protect yourself.
Should she do Muay Thai for to completion, or do you
just
study
get into
these?
it? Just touch it.
Okay.
Touch it a little bit, and then get into jiu-jitsu. Just make sure the school she goes to has good instructors that aren't just going to have them sparring. We're a firm believer in you cannot learn jiu-jitsu without doing jiu-jitsu. But the old school way of doing jiu-jitsu is just sparring and getting injured. If you're injured, you can't do jiu-jitsu, you can't learn jiu-jitsu. So they've broken it down now. The approach to doing jiu-jitsu now is like, in a box, here's your box. I have one hand around your waist and I'm trying to connect my other hand to the hand. And you're trying to keep me from connecting my hands.
Right.
That's it, that's all you get to do.
Right.
Because if you can master all these little 1,000 cuts that we can master, you can put it together for positional sparring, and then you can put it together for sparring.
But sparring is important, though.
It's absolutely important,
Yeah.
absolutely important. But getting you to the point where you understand what it is you're doing, so you're not just in total chaos, is important. And it's the same thing with writing songs. Don't try to throw the finished song out today. Let's work on this little part and massage this part to get to the point where we're kind of putting all these little pieces together to have just a little chunk we can rely on that we've exhausted possibilities.
Do you notice that somebody like Danny, for example, in his discipline in drumming is very similar to studying martial arts?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Because you're up here trying to throw a punch and you're having to block, right, with your knees. Sometimes I think he has 8 limbs.
If you're fighting somebody in jiu-jitsu that's Danny's size, I mean, Danny's a huge guy.
Okay, well, can't go out that way. Is that an exit? Find the exit.
Yeah.
That whole idea of like, you can take on a bigger opponent. Don't be stupid. Get the fuck out of the room. Yeah, if you're cornered, that's why you train a martial art, because you have no choice.
Yeah.
Fight. Don't
okay,
fight.
but if you're cornered, okay, what are you gonna do?
Survive.
Right.
Escape if I can. If I can't escape, then I'll try to at least minimize damage and control, and hopefully submit. But first of all, survive.
Escaping is surviving, right?
Right.
You have survive, but then you have escape. It's like,
Right.
well, escape is survive.
Well,
so maybe escape should be the first one.
If you cannot get away, you're surviving what's happening to you right here.
Right.
Then you're working to escape.
Yeah.
Right. And surviving also is just protecting this. This is your computer.
Yeah.
If you push the off button on this computer, you're not defending anything. So surviving is protecting the computer.
And then I asked you about your wrist here.
Yeah.
How damaged is that?
That's done. There's no cartilage in here, so I have a few choices. I can sever the nerve so it doesn't hurt anymore.
That's not a good choice.
I'll do it anyway because I'm dumb. Or fuse bones.
Yeah.
Or remove bones,
Yeah.
because it's just bone on bone right now. If it had a little bit of cartilage in there, maybe I could entertain stem cell research to regrow the cartilage, but there's no cartilage to regrow.
Right. 3D printed cartilage to
There.
put in there, right?
AI, where were you when I needed you?
That's they'll be able to fix that 5 years or something like that.
Hopefully.
Okay, so what is something that you really like that people might not think that you would like musically?
I mean, there's some early punk rock, like not punk rock, folk punk. I turned a few people on recently. I was listening to X and some Gun Club. It's things like that like it has its place in time. A lot of that stuff doesn't hold up. Like you go back and listen to some of those old punk rock albums or old like goth albums. It's just garbage. It's just bad. But there's others you go, oh wow, that actually held up. You know, Minor Threat. It has a thing and it's solid in its thing and it sounds great. Go back and try to listen to I was trying to listen to Alien Sex Fiend recently. It's just like I can't do it.
Well, I saw Planes, Trains, and Automobiles recently, and I was like, that's not that great of a movie. It's like totally does not hold up.
There's a couple scenes that are like very memorable. Like
oh yeah, there's
people
some great
train
scenes.
comes out of Stubbville. Like so those moments almost
they make up for it.
They kind of say they
Yeah.
kind of but there's but some of the stuff that back in the day I would go, I don't remember if this is good anymore. But Dream Syndicate was one of the bands that I was like, oh, I rediscovered that. But more modern, like you mentioned Taylor Swift, and I just assumed that you hear the word Billie Eilish, I don't know what the fuck that is, and I just hear it in the same. I hear it along with like Bruno Mars and Beyonce. It's like I'm the old dude. I don't know what that is, right? I have no idea. It's just these words that are spoken. Mm-hmm. And then, True Detective puts a Billie Eilish song in the title track, and I go, "What's this?"
Yeah.
Because that,
Billie Eilish is cool.
Her brother, his programming is incredible.
Really
so
good.
I want to know more about that.
Yeah.
So that might surprise people. Not all of it. It's definitely pop, TikTok driven pop songs, but like there's some stuff in it that I go, I want to know more about that. So that might surprise people that I actually mentioned the word Billie Eilish. I'm not 100% in.
Not 100% in.
There's pieces that I like.
What's your go-to, though, of something that you're like, okay, I need to listen to something that I'm going to get inspired by? What's something that you'll put on?
I have different soundtracks for the cafe, for the wine tasting rooms. So I might pick a particular soundtrack, and I usually put the soundtrack together with a theme to kind of give it. Is
your soundtrack? It's like a mixtape, right? Or mix?
Yeah, totally. It's a mixtape,
Yeah.
but it goes on for 4 hours.
Okay, it's a lot of songs.
Yeah. See, you go down the rabbit hole. I just did one that's all goth. That's why I was bringing up the Christian death, like trying to find the song in there that I can put on there that I don't have to delete later, because it just doesn't. There's Sisters of Mercy. Yeah, that song's going on there, and Bauhaus and Tones on Tail. Those are for sure going to be in there. But there's some you're trying to force the square peg in the round hole. It doesn't work. But it all depends on mood, right? So I'll go down a whole, disco, disco soundtrack, or Motown, or folk. Like I'll blend Ralph Stanley with Julian Welch and kind of get into that mindset. It all depends on the mood. But there's definitely I have playlists, probably about 100 playlists that have genre, vibe attached to them.
Okay, so if I were to say, Maynard, give me one record from each of your three bands that you think is like where the songs and the recording, because I'm big into this, the songs and the recording quality, like the production value. Because I asked Joni Mitchell this question.
Okay.
I said, Joni, what is your best sounding?
As far as sonic, which
one where you feel like the songwriting and the sonics?
What did she say?
She said,
because Hissing of Summer Lawns, I feel like I kind of went deep into that one. Hejira is one of my favorite.
But Hejira was one. She mentioned Hejira and
Court
and Spark, yeah. Those two she mentioned. Court and Spark was her first one that she felt like she really got right, that the production and then Hejira, same thing. So if you said one record for each band, what would you say?
With Tool, I think it would be, Lateralis there's a balance to it. Yeah, there's some sonics attached to Anima. That's a very popular one of our albums. But I feel like Lateralis, there were some things happening with that were unexpected. Perfect Circle, I think part of the new album, the first half of the new album, I feel like was there. But overall, I would think that 13th Step is probably the one. Puscifer, I feel like Existential Reckoning is the one, because we kind of had found our way to this. It's an eccentric album. It's definitely a sonic landscape. It's a soundtrack more than it is an album. And I feel like for what Puscifer is, that kind of is a good intro into the eccentric nature of Puscifer. I think a lot of people respond to Conditions of My Parole because it has more songs on it. But I think Existential Reckoning has the more landscape, cinematic approach that I think is more the core of what Puscifer is.
How difficult is it to actually marry these two things, the production part of it and the songwriting? I mean, the songwriting thing is like you write the songs that you write for a particular thing, but capturing it in a certain way that the songs are really elevated by the recording. That's the difficult thing.
It's not easy. I mean, it's in many cases you fall short. There's albums that I've gone back to listen to that because I want to like. I think it's the big Mars Volta album that you really it was like Mars Volta, but sonically it's just horrendous. It hurts your ears. It's compressed to shit. the energy on the album and the way that they're all playing together, his voice is just so incredible. And the playing, of course, but it's because they're so punk rock and they wanted to record it all together in one fucking room. It just hurts your brain because it's so compressed and so, you can't listen to more than 1.5 songs. It starts to really wear on you. And then if you put that on iTunes where it's compressed even more, it just makes you crazy. You have to listen to it on vinyl, which, yeah, I don't carry a fucking turntable around with me, so well, I'm not going to do that. But that's the one that, like, that thing bums me out because I know that what's happening in that room when they were doing it was, transcendent. And for Rick pulling his hair out, probably trying to get them to separate and, make it work sonically, I'm sure he had a way bigger puzzle than he could ever solve on that.
When you're making a record, is this something that you're kind of aware of, or do you ever start songs over because you're like, yeah, it's not the right direction, we don't have the right sounds on it?
Yeah, early Puscifer songs, I definitely, Matt and I, like I said, we have a folder of like, that wasn't working, and had to walk away from it and come back, like trying to write lyrics and melodies to Mama Said. I almost completely abandoned that song. It just wasn't going the direction I was wanting it to go. Literally, like, threw a fucking actual roast tantrum in a fucking studio. Matt's like, that's not like you. And like, just wanted to abandon it. And then I think it was him who went, hang on, I'm gonna move this note. He literally moved one note to make it make sense. And went, oh, there it is.
One melody note. Right?
One melody note fixed it. I was ready to walk away. I could not find my way through it. It's the most frustrating song ever. Originally, it was a piece that I was working on with Timmy C and Brad Wilk, and the way that they put it together was that was a version, but like I was doing a completely different version of that song, and the way that I went that direction, I couldn't. There was that one corner note that was fucking me up. I couldn't puzzle it out until Matt went, bink.
Do you write all your lyrics out, or you type them?
I used to write them, but then I found that I was changing them so much that I had to type them instead, because then it was just scribbles, and then I would lose my way. So even if I did write them down, I would type them out because I need to see them as I'm trying to track them.
So do you have all your new lyrics on your phone? Uh-huh. Do you dictate them when you have a line?
No, I'll stop and type it out.
The Violator mixes that you've done, tell me about that. What about
the remixes?
Yeah, the remixes.
Yeah, the flexibility that we have with the song, we have that core idea, and we just kind of go down that rabbit hole of that core idea. But there's infinite possibilities. There's, it's almost, like the whole completely tired, played out multiverse concept in the Marvel comics. God bless them. But I feel like that's similar with some of these songs. You can come up with a whole different universe with those core ideas. And I feel like we can, and we're flexible enough to do it. And also, handing it off to somebody else to kind of reinterpret it and bring it back is always a fun project. Whether it's you or whether it's somebody else. And I already have, even on the songs we're finishing now, I already have an idea on some of them how I would approach them as a rework, just based on some of the core cornerstone pieces in it, that they went that way, but they could just as easily go this way. And still you're not losing the essence of the song. It just ends up being a different standalone piece.
When I played Green Valley, I played the Violator mix, On the original, which came out, 2011, I think, your vocal is lo-fied in the, lo-fied, right?
Yep.
In the verse.
Yep.
And then it's EQ'd normally in this. And I love it. To me, the new version, I love your vocal sound. I think it sounds amazing in it. I would never know that I would actually like this new version better. Yeah. Unless I heard it like that.
Yeah, on the VS for Versatile mixes, we actually play the third remix versions of those live rather than the original It's just because for us it's new and fresh and you're inspired by it. We can go back and play the original too, but recently we've been playing that rework just because it's kind of keeps you excited.
I love this idea. I'm still have this in my head about using the effects.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever heard that being used, or that I've used that, is if you have a snare, use a snare sample to trigger a reverb, but not use the sample, and then you just get that reverb in there. Right, with your original snare. So you have a clean hit.
Yeah.
So you have no cymbal wash.
Because you got to remember,
reverb.
if you're here to kind of get that boner you first got when you wrote the song every night, eventually you're not going to have the boner, right? You have to be thinking of what their experience is and making sure that they walk away having a memorable night that sounded great. There was no sound, there's always going to be the dude who's standing directly in the bass trap in the room saying how the sound was awful.
It's bassy.
Dude, you're standing in the bass trap. Move. But, you are kind of doing it. You're performing these songs for these people. They're live and there's energy to it, but it has to, just having the energy on stage does not necessarily mean it's going to sound good out front. Like we said earlier, just because you're hitting the drum as hard as you can doesn't mean it sounds great out there. Hitting it softly is incredible. Watching Tony Levin play with the Beat Tour is like he's barely touching those things. Motherfucker's playing 5 different parts all at once. Like, how are you doing that? But like, he's not banging on anything. And there's all this stuff coming out with his keyboard and his thing. And then he's singing a part while he's like playing, has a third arm somewhere.
When he came into my studio and he was demonstrating some of the parts, like with the sticks, and he hardly.
He's not barely tapping on.
Barely tapping, and I'm watching him, and I'm sitting this far away from him, and he's doing. It's like, is that how he's doing it? Mm-hmm. He's barely touching the stuff.
Yeah, it's about the experience out there. It's not about you like having to get all your aggressions out, beating the shit out of that stick. It's what it sounds like to the listener. So, not that you want to bend everything that you're doing to accommodate the listener. You're going to definitely be in your space, be the artist, and create the thing you're going to create. But when you go to present it, you got to make sure that the experience for them hearing it isn't just you working out some daddy issues. Having Vi up there, reinventing the way he plays. It's, even with seeing Hager play with his thing and, Joe Satriani having to completely rethink how he plays to accommodate what Eddie Van Halen used to do, which is a unique thing. So watching those seasoned, accomplished professionals having to find some humility in restarting over to be able to represent those things is pretty, Satriani and Steve Vai, it's pretty inspirational.
Eddie's parts are so, his touch is you can't really copy that.
Right.
That's the thing.
Well, this in jiu-jitsu, going back to martial arts, there's people that are trying to preserve Rickson Gracie's martial art and his approach to everything. But it's like, I appreciate that, but you can't preserve Rickson. Rickson's body does a thing that no other body does. You can try to duplicate it, kind of, but like the way his body works and the way his mind connected to his body works, you cannot preserve that. When he goes, that goes with him. Michael Jordan there's basketball, and then there's Michael Jordan, and you can't, whatever was going on with that body, you can't teach it. You cannot teach it. Whatever's going on with Eddie Van Halen's fingers is not something you can teach.
Right.
You can struggle to get to the point where you can kind of duplicate it having already been established for you, but you couldn't have done it. He had to do it first and draw the map. But even the map is like, where the fuck's the map?
Well, the few people that I've interviewed that played through Eddie's rig, like Nuno Betancourt and Dweezil Zappa, we're good friends with them, and they played through his rig. It's like, I sounded like me. I didn't sound anything like Eddie. And he's like, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Okay, so Maynard, when you have this bad wrist here, right, and then and you and I are grappling, and you go and grab me with this hand, that's a weak point there.
I'm just wanting to remind myself.
To remind yourself not to injure it more.
Yeah, to focus on this hand.
But no problem. You'd kill me in what? How how fast of a takedown would it be?
That's our first bet. You just have to find out. You're still rolling, right?
This would be great. Pavel should.
Nighty night, Rick.
That would be pretty funny, right? Okay, so I'm 62. I'll be 63 in April. If I started jiu-jitsu now, is it a fool's errand?
No, it's not a
to do
fool's
it?
errand. It's just you have to make sure that your shoulders healed up completely, and do not walk into a gym that's going to throw you into sparring right away. You have to go into a gym that's going to understand how to do the drilling first and understand how to, connect yourself. The misconception I feel like especially with jiu-jitsu, is that your journey from blue belt to black belt is about you learning how to more effectively control people and winning, when in fact it's more about you controlling you. If you're in complete control of your actions, you're much more effective a grappler. So it's not about learning how to control the person, because you might not be able to duplicate what that other person is going to do. You need to be in control of you. So if you go into a gym that understands that we're trying to learn self-control, then you'll be better off. So heal up and then come see us.
And how much is flexibility
Very.
that you guys drill that? Is that that's a big thing?
Just
or?
being warmed up.
Yeah.
Get your muscles warm before you're doing a thing and doing crazy shit. And back in the day, you couldn't say, hey, my shoulder's fucked up. They just throw you in the pit, right? Now you can say, I have an injury. And your coach should be able to go, okay, well, let's switch sides here and let's work on it on this side so you at least understand what it is we're talking about.
Maynard, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. You're the man. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.